Hello and good morning, everyone, and welcome to our launch of our new Delivering Experience to Win Business and Build Loyalty survey. My name is Andreas Heitz. I'm from SAS Institute, and I am presenting this to you here together in partnership with MIT Connections, Intel, and Accenture. So before we begin our presentation, I would like to cover some housekeeping items, especially for everyone who is attending virtually. At the bottom of your screen, you will see multiple little widgets, right? Where you can click on these buttons to submit questions. You can also customize your view if you want to have us bigger than the slides, for example, and you can also post any questions there you have. We will try to answer these questions during the webcast or at the end of the webcast, depending on how many questions are coming in and how much time we are going to have left. And if we cannot cover those questions, we will see who is posting the questions, so we will be very happy to reach out to you later on. A recording of that webcast is also available for download later on. Once we conclude with today's sessions, you will get a link to download that webinar. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the group of people that I have here with me in lovely and sunny Frankfurt, right? On the very left of your screen, we have Christian Peter. I'm very happy to have you here. Christian Peter is the lead of marketing automation at Commerzbank here in Germany. Christian has been in the banking industry and shaping the banking industry for many years. He has held positions in sales. He brought his experience then into sales management. In his current position as head of marketing automation for private and business customers in Commerzbank, he is consistently continuing along this path. And his goal is to turn man and machine into partners, which I really like. And sales-related digitalization with a customer focus is in his DNA. Very happy to have you here, Christian. Welcome. Thank you. Next to Christian, we have Corrado. Corrado is a senior manager of applied intelligence at Accenture. He has more than 15 years of know-how in data and transformation, customer experience, digital transformation journeys. He is a delivery lead for customer experience at Accenture and is a passionate advocate of customer experience and how we can evolve this with analytics and better experiences. So really good to have you here, Corrado. Thank you very much. Then next to me, we have our friend from Brazil, Ricardo. Ricardo is a managing director of eGlobalis. He is an innovation and experience consulting company. He is a global strategist. He works very closely with C-suites. He advises C-suites on experiences, operations, simplification, and culture transformation. He's been working with a lot of companies, amongst them Samsung, HP, SAP, Oracle, Volkswagen. There's a lot more, right? We don't have time to cover all of this. Ricardo is also the founder of ECXO.org, which is a European customer experience organization, and we will hear a little bit more from you on that later on. So very happy to have all of you here today with me in Frankfurt, and looking forward to a very interesting conversation. I would also like to just quickly reach out and say a very warm welcome to our friends in Sweden at SAS who have a similar event. They're all sitting together in our lovely office in Solna, and we'll have a further conversation after this webcast concludes. So a warm welcome to our friends in Sweden as well. Good. So what is really, what are we, talking about when we talk about customer experience, right? So organizations in Middle East and Africa, or EMEA, I will refer to it as EMEA going forward, have strong expectations for the return on investment on customer experience technologies. These are things like analytics, personalization, smart assistants, right? So all the new modern gadgets that we are investing in. Nearly 50%, as our survey shows, of companies in these regions plan to increase the investments by between 11 and 50% over the next 2 years. So a very significant portion. If you look at, more than, a very significant percentage also, and that this is broken down, as you can see on the slide as well, right? We have more than 16% in Europe, or even 22% in the Middle East and Africa, who are trying to more than double their investment in 2 years' time. Okay? So it's really important to show, the return in investment on those investments, right? It's all very cool to talk about this, but at the end of the day, it's important that we can show to the stakeholders what does it actually bring to the bottom line. Okay? So we'll address all of these. Topics during today's webcast. We have some really good viewpoints from my panelists here. Okay, so what we are seeing, right, is, and I need to see which slide you have to look at now, because we have too many slides, right? So as we see with organizations worldwide, right? The percentage of EMEA-based businesses, which we want to focus on, that are achieving large positive returns, is expected more than double in the next 2 years, right? It's forecast to nearly triple over the following years, growing from 12 to 34%. So I would like to open up for a discussion, and let's start maybe with you, Corrado, here first. How do you see that market, and how do you see the situation in Europe around that customer experience?
Yeah, okay, so companies nowadays, they face challenges in an increased interaction for consumer, for customers and consumers. And these actually generate, of course, more quantity of data, more quantity of information that the companies can actually take, in consideration. At the same time, the leaders, the marketeers, they face challenges how actually to manage, how actually they can get, the right information. Actually, they can focus on the right customer experience for that. And maybe we have heard this, many times about what the effect of the pandemic or the post-pandemic was, to increase the digitalization. But at the same time, there's this massive volume of data that, they are much more difficult, to manage in the right way. And companies that implemented digital solution, they were not able to completely close the cycle of generate the right business value, because the digital solution, they cannot really yet at scale. And I think the reason is because there is no enough integration of the technology solution into the operating organizational model.
Okay, very interesting. How do you see this, Ricardo?
Well, adding for what Conrado just said, technology, data are great supporters of customer experience and customer understanding. However, we have to understand that is not enough to really create a great customer experience and to return your investment. What is really the important part, have to start somewhere, and the important part is culture, planning, strategy, and execution of your strategy. And many companies today in EMEA are starting to, many started already many years ago, and some are tuning their strategies right now as like customer experience becomes more public, let's say in that way. The ROI for tech investments will only be worth for your company if you invest in the pillars of adoption for the technology that you are investing, from both sides, from the vendor side and from the acquisition side, doesn't matter. And that you are going to enable your people with the right tools to adopt trainings, etc., cascading down the culture of your company in the right way. That will be a starting point for your company to really get the acquisition of new technology and investment properly done. That's the idea.
Okay. And I think this is really interesting what you are just saying, Ricardo, right? Because one of the findings that we had in the survey that we did, that across EMEA, it's really difficult to build momentum in customer experience, especially among frontline employees, right? So we've been talking to Early Bridge. Early Bridge are a subject matter experts that helped us in this study, right? So I'm just reading a quote, what they're saying. Europe doesn't emphasize, nor especially value, business leaders who stand up and advocate big, audacious goals, right? So a little bit different in Europe than, let's say, maybe in the US, right? So Christian, how do you see those customer experience strategies as an overall digital, as part of the overall digital transformation strategy? I'm sure you have some great examples of how you have done this at Commerzbank. So if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will follow the theme about scalability of the things we do. We bring together scalability, personalization, and analytics together. And therefore, we do not do any more campaigns only following to a campaign plan, but we do analytics of 250 to up to 300 campaigns every day for all our customers, because we want to be as close as possible to the needs of our customers. And these analytics for good CX, we do not do in one or in another channel. We do in a centralized way, not connected to one channel, but then done centrally to serve all channels. Because the customer in our modern journey management can come to us in every time he wants, in every channel he wants. We want to give him the best experience wherever he arrives or she arrives and whenever. And so a strong analytic, which is quite connected to the sales branches and sales networks, is extremely important. And therefore, we add a highly personalization effort on every contact and every touch point. We don't want to do only advertisement on the side of online portal, for example. We wanted to give relevant messages to each customer when he is in contact with us, with a Commerzbank, for give him the best advice really possible. And all these analytics we don't deliver up in batch. We deliver only in real time so that we can handle fast interaction and feedback of our customers can be directly used on all our other channels we have. So we get a quite good story and a feeling for the customer. He feels he's in dialogue with a Commerzbank.
So it's about relevance, essentially, right?
Absolutely.
It needs to be relevant. Okay, good. I'm sure you have an opinion as well, Corrado.
Well, well, at the end, I think that the main point, understanding who the customer is, and of course, we have the never-ending, question about building up a good customer data, centric, environment that actually we can capture this information. So I think, irrespective of how much actually you address, your actions to the customer, I think companies nowadays, they still face this kind of challenge. So understanding the customer, who the customer is, and also I would say how track the customer life cycle. Of course, there are some markets that are more mature that actually, the more mature digitalized marketing that can really track more, from an end-to-end, customer life cycle. But life cycle and data set, customer-centric data, I think is the most challenge, irrespective of the actions. Because, there are some companies that they still, launch, 1,000, campaigns a month still. But then it's just, aiming not really, in the right direction. So this is.
So we're saying there is a lot of data available, right? But we are not necessarily using it in the right way and doing the right things.
I think that one of the most common, let me say, misled concept is just to understand that technology can solve everything. You know, in the sense, of course, the integration, you know, with the operating and organizational model. So just developing a customer experience, integrating with all the process around, I think that is the success factor key.
Yeah, I agree. So, which is actually very interesting. You know, we've also, as part of our survey, we've talked to another consulting company as well and asked them, you know, what is their experience about changing the customer focus, right? And so what we found out is that for a long time, especially pre-pandemic, right, it was all about focusing on the theoretical aspect of it, right? It's a lot about, you know what's happening, you know, but nobody is actually doing anything with that information, right? So, you know, this would include things like customer experience planning, customer journey mappings, right? So we've all been in situations where you are in a marketing department and the whole wall is full of customer journeys, right? But it's been all very theoretical, but it's not been very much dynamic, and it has not been very practical going forward, right? So going forward, it's really a lot about, you know, activating those strategies, right? Not having them theoretical, but activating they are, right? So this really highlights the importance of customer insights, and those customer insights really need to be embedded into the business processes, right? So what do you think? Why is that so important to drive the strategy and you know, the business strategies and the execution, right? Is it really so critical in delivering a good customer experience, or is it all a bit of a hype?
Well, it's interesting, the same questions I got some days before in Tokyo about insights, because we all talk about insights, and I answered like it is a multi-step approach. You have to get the availability of data, then you have to do consolidation. Afterwards, you have to be a reliable updating of data. Then you can analyze these data, and after this, you have insights, not before. You may not miss a step. And only by doing these 4 steps, you are in a position that you can do activities which get to a real impact and which goes to the right direction. And that is, I think, insights are like buzzwords. You hear everywhere from it, but how to earn really impactful insights is quite a hard work, but it's worth to do.
It's worth to do as long as you can use it afterwards as well, right? As long as you can activate this as well, right? Ricardo, any thoughts on this?
Yes, first of all, I partly agree with what the SME Olga said, right? Because nobody would invest in customer experience unless you have a return on that. You know, maybe in the beginning it was more theoretical, today is much more practical. And Europe is bringing that, because in Europe we care about financial results connected with the experience, unless you're not going to invest in technology and other things. There was always a discrepancy between the financial side and CX. But today you have the tools, and we can connect all the main measurements with the results of your company. So we are improving all the time. And I think that the flow of process that Christian just mentioned is also about adoption of the technology that you are acquiring, and how you are expanding, how you're going to deliver your experience. But I don't see that this is a new thing. This is always was there, depending on our knowledge. Every company asks for that. SAS would not invest in CX unless you have returns. That's clear for everyone.
And it's also important then to make sure, you know, you have some, you know, those metrics are aligned on a senior management level, I guess, right? So it's
and that's an important point, because all metrics and measurements are self-analysis. You need to understand short and middle term. You get a view of your customer opinions, but the numbers, honestly, they never lie, and you know they are everything that is happening with you. That's all.
One question, that's a surprise question because we didn't talk about this beforehand, right? But I know you work a lot in Asia, right? Do you see a difference in the long-term versus short-term, if you look at Europe and Asia, because we know the Asian culture is a lot of a long-term. Is it the same for customer experience, that there's that you can clearly differentiate the metrics there?
So I work a lot with Samsung, right, everywhere in the world. And what happens in Samsung in the beginning was, just to illustrate what you were saying, was a doubt about CX, we should invest, we should not. When you aligned that with the financial results, obviously we have upfront something to do, yes, it's not just I'm coming here and telling you all those things. But when you aligned that with financial results was so clear for them, so then they started to use the metrics in a how can I explain that? To get a feeling about the situation, but the numbers. And when you got the numbers for them clear regarding the data, we could gain more C-suite buy-in, and that was a major change for us, because in the beginning was struggling to convince.
Okay. Very interesting. Yeah, so it's like you have to have it from the top, but also from the bottom, right, to make sure that it actually works at the end of the day. Okay. Another interesting point that I would like to bring up that is becoming, especially in Europe, more and more of a topic is data ethics. Right? It's a lot about, obviously, we have a lot of insights, but that also brings a certain dilemma around data privacy, data protection. What do I do with that data, right? So what is quite interesting is that we see that the survey says that 38% of companies globally have a plan around data ethics, right? And another 30% are saying they are planning to have a plan, right, around data ethics, right? So regionally, though, those numbers are very similar across the EMEA region, right? And I think especially in Europe with GDPR, it's a really, it's a really key thing, right? So Corrado, how do you see this data ethics topic?
Right, this is an interesting and realistic scenario and this also introduced the concept of being responsible in implementing new technology and new customer solutions in that sense. And Accenture is now investing in so-called responsible AI. Well, actually, you can say AI from data modeling, customer data modeling, up to the most announced technology like robotics, for example. And we selected a small group of higher performing companies that using AI, they generate 50+% of growth revenue in implementing new technology and customer experience. An interesting point is that among other success factors that, of course, are combined to perform and that generate the business value, these achievers are on average, again, about 50%, likely than others, more responsible, approaching the AI, being responsible by design. So basically, for the entire life cycle. So if you want to make a comparison, likewise, when we talk about intelligent decisioning, in the customer experience, that we need to highlight the importance of managing the entire life cycle from keeping the data, modeling the data, applying the business rules, executing, rather than being focused only, on the execution through the channel. Here, it's just about the success factor is to implement AI in respect of, social environment, governance metric, starting by design.
Interesting. So how do we see it, when we talk about the key customers or the key success factors, right, of this, right, of customer experience or superior customer experience, right? You've mentioned before, Christian, that, you do a lot of analytics, right? What's the key success to make sure that this works, right? So that you can really use analytics to support those and operationalize analytics, right?
Yes. We hear, or you can see in many companies, analytics are available nearly everywhere. we are convinced that it's necessary to have analytics as near as possible at the sales business process, because that is where the needs are, that is where where all results have to be achieved, and that is a way where the customer understanding is directly gained from each channel and where the information comes back. And that is not to do analytics only in a laboratory way, but really deeply anchored in the sales and consulting business. That is quite one important part, and in our case it's allocated in marketing due to the responsibility for enabling all channels to do the best for our customers. And the second one I want to mention is fast interaction with your customers, because customer is we have on the one side we have branches, on the other side we have digital channels like mobile app, which increases. It's nothing new anymore, but the possibility to bring these channels together and to combine your strengths, which we have as a quite strong branch and a network and a digital channel, that makes a necessity to have real-time interaction between these channels. The branch agents, they have to know what happens in mobile, and the mobile must support branch agents to sell or to give any relevant hints to the customer. And this is quite, out of my point of view, a new level of interaction between two channels, and that is a quite big challenge in companies to implement this in one company, which has, like every company, channels who were developed in former times in separate and isolated way, and every channel has its really strength. We want to use these strengths, for example, the quick and easy access in mobile, for example, the personal contact in branches, and this bring together for a really good CX, as we are talking today. That makes the result in the final end.
Yeah, so it's really important that every channel knows in real time what the other channel does, right? So I'm just, for the simplicity, making an example. I'm going into the branch, and if I do something and then I sign up for a product, for example, right? And then 3 hours later I get a push notification advertising that product that I just bought. That would be a super negative customer experience, right? So it's all about connecting those channels, but not only coordinating what is being sent out, but also very much gathering what is actually happening in the channels. Right? Okay. So these are some of the challenges, right? And you are very far advanced in Commerzbank with dealing with that, right? But then we also see, when we look at the survey, we've asked, the participants, how would they rate the quality of their customer experience compared to their competitors, right? That is quite interesting that about 77% are saying that they think, it's much better or somewhat better than their competitors. In Europe, it's a little bit lower, and then in the Middle East, it goes even further down to only like 59%, right? So it's quite interesting to see, that we benchmark ourselves to competitors, right? But often that is probably a misconception as well, right? How do you see that, Ricardo?
Oftentimes when like the leadership of companies, they self-assess and they say, well, we are far better than our competition. Probably the customers will say something else. In many cases they are right, but I never saw some company that was totally right about what they are saying. Outperforming your competition can be in certain areas, but not always you outperform that. You cannot be perfect in everything. So this is the kind of mindset that I always take in consideration. Self-analysis is very good, but reality is your customer in the end of the day. About regarding the maturity model in EMEA, well, EMEA is extremely diverse. Yeah, we are huge. So we are Middle East, Africa, as you said. And it's very difficult to compare apples and bananas. Yeah, because it's different DNA, DNA not, but it's different fruit. We cannot compare South Africa with the UK and Germany because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
when the people say that, okay, what they are saying are the words, we are benchmarked with some other part of the world, but that doesn't mean that other part of the world have the right standards for us, because we are Europe, there is the Middle East, and there is the Africa. All right, everybody have a different understanding of data, perceptions, analysis of things. Okay, this is extremely important to understand. So we understand that there's a huge gap even between Schweiz, Germany, and Austria. But we created an organization exactly addressing this kind of gap that we are rising up right now, okay, called the European Customer Experience Organization, to address this problem that we all have, all right? Not taking a model from somebody else, but creating our own model. And how we are doing that, or plan at least, is to educate the corporate world about customer experience and our events, all those kinds of things. But the most important part is to take the best of each part of this region, especially Europe, such as the empathetic approach of the Portuguese, the Spanish, and the Italians, and bring to us here in DACH, and we can export for them, for example, or solutions orientation, or efficiencies, or quality, or design. So many things can be interchanged. So this is what we're aiming to do, and that's exactly the plan to close those gaps.
Okay. Yeah, I think that you're making a really interesting point, right, around the different cultures, and everyone perceives customer experience obviously completely different, right? And it's very important to address this, especially when you work for a multinational company. You cannot just have one single strategy for customer experience.
Exactly, and every country is in a different stage of maturity. You cannot compare everyone.
And every market as well, you know, that's in the industry as well. So the customer satisfaction perception is different, you know, from country to country, region to region.
Yeah. So, and then if you take all of that and obviously mix it now with the data ethics and the GDPR, so there's a lot of challenges, right, that we need to address, right? So I think, you know, there's little question, right, that, you know, these enterprise-wide initiatives obviously need a very clear strategy, right? And we find, or the survey found, that a significant majority of companies have actually elevated, you know, those strategies to the level of a corporate digital strategy, right? So it's not only you don't have a customer experience strategy standalone in a silo, but it needs to be part, and it is in a lot of companies part of a broader digital strategy, right? Nonetheless, what we see is that a lot of organizations in EMEA are actually still lacking behind the rest of the world in terms of customer experience, which I find personally quite interesting, because being in Europe, I find customer experience most of the time quite okay. But we also have obviously unique challenges with, you know, GDPR, with the cultural differences. As you said, Ricardo, it's not the same in Portugal than it is in Germany, for example, right? So it's a challenge to build momentum, but I think we're on the right way to actually do that. So I'm looking at the time here, and so I just wanted to ask the audience if there's any questions. I'm looking at the back there. Let's listen to the first one.
Yes, Andreas, we do have 3 questions. First one, does the research show the impact of fragmented technology buying? Seems that a lot of companies have randomly bought, like it said here, mad tech, finding themselves in an operational mess to manage CX. What is your answer to that?
That's a really good question, and I think we've addressed some of this before, right? That technology is one part, but technology cannot solve it, right? So, who wants to answer that question?
Well, probably I can start with the question is not, I think, which software could be the best. The question is, which strength of my company do I want to underline in contact to my customers, and which weaknesses do I want to reduce with the help of software? And therefore, you have to have your own idea, your own strategy, and then you can look for the software which fits to these needs you have and the goals you want to reach. When you jump over this step, you will buy med tech, as we just heard in the question, because then you have something bought, but you don't know if it's useful, and probably you invest much effort to integrate this solution, but you don't have a goal what you really want to reach with this software solution. So I would think about first make your ideas what you want to reach towards your customers and to deliver a good CX out of the angel of your own company where you are.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think we have both with Accenture and also you, with, Ricardo, right? There's lots of companies out there who can help with those strategies, right? So it's really important to first know what you want to achieve, and then you buy the technology, right? Okay. Second question.
More?
Yeah.
Are there any ideas about a roadmap to go to implement a customer-centric strategy?
Yes. There are many. There are a lot of things in the internet today available. Okay, I don't want to tell what I do about that, but if you look in Google, I'm sure you'll find the best solutions for your needs. Yes, every different market, every different region needs different things, all right? So what works for the US doesn't work in Europe, as I mentioned before. You can find this for sure. I think, I don't know if I can do that, I can say that I think Accenture is a good source of material. I think BCG, I think you have so many things that you can find. I can give you also my templates from home, so that's no problem. But that's so many things available for that. And we can, when we have time, then we can talk about that later. But that's a 1 hour answer. So,
yeah, that was a very good executive summary of that 1 hour answer. Thank you very much, Ricardo. Okay, good. And one last question, I think?
Yeah, there is one last question. Are there any best practices on how to handle qualitative research data? I think compared to quantitative research data.
Okay.
I should answer that. Well, the same answer will apply here. We have a lot of material. I cannot tell you what I use because this belongs to my clients, in that case, Samsung. But there are so many things. There are companies that are specialized in how to extract and how to analyze things. And if I would suggest maybe you drop a message for Andrea and he'll give you my mail, and then I can tell you more details about that. But this is a really long, and you'll find also material in the internet. There is a very quality material there. Obviously, everybody posts their things. You have to know how to see what will fit your company, because what fits a banking will not fit the telecommunications. Everybody have different needs, and you have to understand your needs. That makes sense?
So what would be interesting to follow up on this, if I may ask Christian, right? So you've been very successful with customer experience in Commerzbank, right? So we have another 3 minutes or so. Can you share maybe what would be the biggest challenges that you have faced, right, in doing that?
Out of the last year, or out of our discussion, I would say first to get the necessity of data reliable and as fast and regular as you need it. The second is probably you see a competition between different representatives of products or channels, but I think it's not going about competition. It's about combine these strengths together, combine the strengths of channel, not competition, combine the strengths of products and not competition between these products. And this is quite an internal change. So customer first, and then comes the internal organization, which should fit to these needs of every customer. And the last one is probably the staying power that is necessary to bring such a change through an organization. Nevertheless, to people and to technique, it's about both. And all these things we have talking today, you will not reach in 6 months.
Yeah, so it's a process. It's a process, right? And I think it's really important to see that you need to have the buy-in, right, to really switch from a more product-centric approach to a customer-centric approach, which is, I think, in my personal opinion, that's really key to a good customer experience, right? It's that you get a customer-focused approach.
Customer and employee focus, both are very
Customer and
important.
employee-focused approach, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
There's also one big drive how actual organizations are organized, you know, because, you know, they are not so uncommon that we still find, you know, that these market operations are led by sales unit, sales line of business. And in this sense, you know, there is kind of conflict, you know, to just set up the right strategy just towards the common objective of the company in that sense.
And that's a great point because that shows that they are not mature enough. Yeah, sometimes.
Well, but there's many dimensions, of course, you know, that actually concur to that. But this is an important point.
Excellent, good. So we could continue discussing this for the next couple of hours, right? But unfortunately, we are running out of time here. So I think it's, you know, I would like to thank you, the three of you, to be here with me in Frankfurt today for that great discussion. I'm sure we will continue after the event concludes a little bit more our discussions as well. I would like to thank everyone who has joined us virtually today as well on that webcast. So we are, as we said at the beginning, you can review this recording later on. You can share the recording as well. You see my contact information. Very happy to get in touch. Please let us know if you have any questions. Other than that, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today, and wishing everyone a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you very much.